Okay, hello, this is Debbie Davis. It is November 19th today. And so I said on my last video that I wanted to touch on some issues about South Dakota that I've been meaning to talk about for a while. So just yesterday there was something that came out about the South Dakota tribe has now declared an emergency on the Native American reservation in South Dakota, the Pine Ridge, which is, I guess, is the largest, because they have so much crime, and they don't have enough law enforcement, and so they're saying that there's only 33 officers and 8 criminal officers responsible for more than 100,000 emergency calls across 4,500 square miles. That's how big the reservation is, I guess. It's roughly the size of Connecticut. So they should have 120 officers, and so this one federal judge, Roberto Lang, and I will get into something about him in another video because he's the same judge that denied a case that I have pending against my county, that I will talk about. So I want to touch on today. I want to touch on issues with the crime going on there that a lot of people haven't talked about, and then it just because of all this stuff with the courts that Trump is going through, and there's just the corruption of the whole system. So I mean, it just is just a lot of this stuff needs to come out. Truly the level of corruption that we're dealing with in certain areas. So South Dakota is definitely one of them. So he said, we might have to reevaluate the census populations. I don't know. So they are dealing with issues of very serious, issues with gun violence, rapes, drugs, see what here. It's a public safety issue. It's basically, it's a highly, it's a lack of competent and effective law enforcement on the reservation. And they have like a drug issue. It's a crisis, he said. And so what he's saying is, they have 100,000 emergency calls each year. So they're concerned because they're not getting, and it's not just it's a level of crime, and then also just the officers are not doing their jobs. The ones that are there is what it sounds like to me. So, so it's a really complicated issue in South Dakota because you're dealing with a lot of tribes, and so so I wasn't sure exactly what was going on, the whole scenario there. I had bought a house, so as you know, I was in Arizona, and when I was in the Arizona National Guard there, and then I moved back to Minnesota, where I'm from, and then I was there for a while, Minnesota, and then I did buy a house in South Dakota. I got a really good deal on some property out there, and I was out there in 2017, 2018, and just working and trying to fix up the house and just trying to get to know people. And I was, when I first moved out there, I was just trying to be friendly, but they didn't really seem like, the locals really weren't that thrilled that I were there. They were kind of standoffish, and I didn't really understand some of them, why that was. You would think that you would be friendly to, new people coming in town. It's a small town. But it was a very strange dynamic going on there, and I knew when I bought the house from my friend, I got it on an auction. They do things out there on auctions. It was a family auction because I knew him, the family, and he told me that, there was issues with the dynamics in town with the one guy, the mayor, because he's like a bully. But I didn't know it was as serious as what it was. He didn't expand on how serious what it was. And maybe he didn't have his, the serious issues. Didn't know. I don't think he knew how serious it was. So anyway, I wanted to tell the full story of what happened and what has gone on there. And because a lot of things have been never made it to the news in South Dakota. They don't have a new, they just talk about real basic stuff on the news there. They don't talk about like the real serious criminal issues that have gone on there. And so, you're going to be shocked, some of the things, but it has to be brought up because it's very serious at this point. It's dangerous. So, I was just, getting to know my neighbors, and my one neighbor, Jimmy, who I'd become friends with, he's like the handyman in town. He would come over and help me with things around the house, and he would watch my dog for me if I had to leave, or anything like that. And he turned out to be, a good friend of mine, and he was kind of telling me some things about the town and, informing me there was a lot of traffic going through there at night, and he believed that there was some kind of drug running thing going on. And I said, well, yeah, that's probably what it is. I'm guessing. I don't know. I really didn't care because I was sleeping at night. I wasn't out trying to cause problems or trying to look out my window. I was just there working on the house. And, and I said, well, sure. I mean, that's probably what it is. That's usually what they're doing at night. Same thing. It's probably what it is, Jimmy. It's probably some kind of drug issue. There's issues like that all over the country. And Jimmy and this mayor of the town who was known as the bully that my friend told me about, his name is Rodney Hoffman. They have never liked each other. And so, but all Jimmy did was just mention at a local bar somewhere that he just right in the basic county there, that he believed, he thinks he knows what's going on. He thinks it's drug running going on, and with Rodney, and but all he did is say it at a local bar. And about a week later, Jimmy was brutally murdered in my town, and so somebody had broken into a window and burned him in the face. He had face burns, and his throat was burnt, was soot in the throat, and then his whole house was set on fire. So if you can imagine how freaked out I was, that was in 2018, and I'll show you a picture of Jimmy. This was this was Jimmy Kolb. He was my friend who would watch my dog every once in a while. I mean, does that look like a dangerous person to you? I mean, he mentions, this is not somebody this is like just a town, a town just local person that didn't even have a computer. Like who's he going to tell? He's just, he's not going to report it to anybody. He's just, wasn't a danger. But they brutally murdered him, and we saw the body. I was there. We saw the as they, they pulled him out, and his face. You could see that he had mostly just the face burnt. When they finally did get him out of the house, when they put the fire out, because I was there, because he was only lived a few doors down from me, and then and they didn't want me to be there. They were upset that I was watching the whole thing, because it took them so long to get the fire out. Just the whole thing in these rural areas is much different than the bigger cities, and so it's a real rural area, but it's real beautiful, and so anyway, so then they right away they try to take the body, and Jimmy had a brother named Larry, and right away they try to whoosh the body away, and and they said that they got permission from his sister. So okay, I'll show you the article that came out. You can look up the house fire in Long Lake. Right here. This is the Keto Land, or this was the article. So this was in December 5th, 2017. Yeah. Authorities are investigating a house fire in Long Lake, South Dakota that killed a man. Body of 64-year-old Jimmy Kolb was found in a burned home early Thursday. And they tried to say that it was that he, see, this is the problem, is that they tried to say that that he, that it was an accident. Okay, and this is what they were trying to tell us all, but we saw his face as they pulled him out, and we saw that the window of his bathroom, where he the window was broken into. There was glass in the bathtub, and that Jimmy was found naked in right inside of the bathroom where he had fallen. So, and then you could see that he had grabbed the shower curtain, and he was face down, and so the shower curtain was in the water, and when we saw all that, and the next us neighbors took pictures and different things like that, and turned that in as criminal evidence to the Attorney General, and to the sheriff, and the sheriff didn't do anything, and still hasn't to this day, and that's why we did file a lawsuit against the county. And so I won't get into that part of it, that whole part of it right now, but they were trying to whoosh the body away and cremate the body, and they said that the sheriff was trying to cremate the body without Larry's permission, right away. He said, "Oh, we got the sister's permission," and Larry said, "Well, you don't have my permission. I didn't know. I'm still in shock. I want to see the autopsy. I want an autopsy." And so because I got a hold of his brother, and I said, "Did you authorize the cremation?" And he said, "Absolutely not. I'm totally in shock still. I don't know what's going on." And so he called the coroner, and we contacted the coroner and said that we want an autopsy. And he said that he wants an autopsy, and that he does not authorize the cremation. And so then they had the body sent for an autopsy. I don't know exactly where, but that's when the autopsy came back. that's when we looked at it, it clearly said that there was a bunch of soot, like he had gotten fire in the throat, like soot in the throat. It wasn't, because they tried to say that he died of smoke inhalation, but it was like it was like his throat was charred. So that wasn't it. The autopsy, didn't account for that, and so all of their lies just kept adding up, and and just and so, and then Jimmy's brother said, I also want pictures, of, because so the sheriff was also withholding the pictures from the family, from his brother, the pictures, so we could see, because we were trying to prove that this was a homicide, because the sheriff was trying to say that this was an accident, that he was just, he somehow got, started a fire in his house. He wasn't an invalid. He was very capable. He was like a handyman. He was only 64. He was a very capable person. He could have gotten out. He wasn't crippled or anything. So anyway, then he said, so then they brought the body to Carlson Funeral Home, because he said, I want to see the body. I still don't want it cremated until I see the body. So then they held the body at this funeral home in Aberdeen for a while on ice, and then him and I together requested if we could go down and get pictures, and multiple times we called a couple times and tried to get an appointment to go down and see the body, and each time they made up a story there to not allow Jimmy or Larry to get pictures of the body. So this was just like getting weirder and weirder every day. I had never seen anything like this, and so the sheriff withheld all the evidence from his brother Larry and myself and all of us, and then so to this day, Larry and then Larry got a bill from the Carlson Funeral Home and said, well, since you told us that we couldn't cremate the body, now here's your bill for having the body on ice. And so he got this huge bill. They were just as nasty as they could be. Didn't let him see the body, then sent him a bill. These are evil people. And so I want to tell this story about, because people don't understand the level. There's a huge, I talked about it in one of the videos. There's been this huge trafficking issue going on right through these areas, but I just knew South Dakota as about hunting, which most people know. It's a lot of people go out there for hunting, but I had no idea that there was this kind of weird stuff going on out there. It just was, an inexpensive property. It's beautiful out there. I have a well, and it's clean air, clean water, and a big amount of property. And so, but I had no idea that I was going to have to deal with all of this corruption. And so, anyway, then, so to this day, they never released the body. They never released the body so he could have a proper burial. I've never seen anything like this. And so, they just, refused to ever do a real investigation. And, so my neighbors and I, well, one of my neighbors did go in on a lawsuit against the sheriff, because then as I got to know the neighbors, I heard about 9 other crimes in the area that had gone unsolved. I will talk about those at a different time, but so then we decided to file a lawsuit because of the way that the sheriff handled the whole investigation. I mean, so we're at the point where we're afraid to even live in our homes because, we had a brutal murder happen, 3 doors down from us. This is not, it's one thing, when you have just, something happening at night, some cars going by, but then when you have a brutal murder, that's different. Now I'm afraid for my life, at this point. And, and then the sheriff is clearly corrupt, just doing a complete cover up. So we filed petitions to try to get rid of this sheriff. We filed complaints with the attorney generals, the governor, everything, and we weren't able to get him removed. I don't know why it's so difficult to get rid of sheriffs. I guess you have to wait for them to be reelected or whatever, but there's got to be more ways, if you have this much evidence against somebody, to get rid of a corrupt sheriff. Otherwise, you're putting people in danger. I mean, we're all just completely freaked out in this county, in our town. And so basically, so then we filed a lawsuit, and then the sheriff has the deputies come by and start harassing me, and for filing this lawsuit. Then they start coming around and knocking on our doors. He has his deputies knock on our doors like a threat tactic. So here's them at
here's the police stalking me at 8:30 at night.
Yeah, I recorded it.
I'm recording this.
And they did this a couple times. See, that's it. It was this 8:30 at night. 8:30 at night. They would come around, and they did it to a couple neighbors, and to try to, like, threat tactics, to try to get us to shut up, basically.
Here they are again. Stop.
And I'm totally freaked out at this point, in this town. And so, this has been a really freaky experience. I couldn't believe it. I just was blown away. And so still to this day, the sheriff, we've done, we filed a lawsuit, and this corrupt judge in South Dakota, who was a judge appointed by Obama, denied our case, just dismissed our case for no reason. Won't let our case go to court. So, that's why I'm bringing this whole thing up, is because, we're dealing with issues with, Trump is dealing with corrupt judges. We have a lot of corrupt federal judges that were put in by Obama in South Dakota that won't even allow cases to be heard. So, but there is a lot of other things that has happened in South Dakota that that I'll touch on here. There's a Minnesota woman that died right in custody, police custody, right of this year in Sioux Falls. Minnesota woman died on June 7th in Sioux Falls. They said she was found unresponsive in her cell. She was from Minnesota, and then she was for some reason she was in Sioux Falls. I don't know why, maybe visiting somebody or something. And all they say is that there was no foul play suspected. The South Dakota Division of Criminal Investigation has been contacted. Okay, let me tell you, the South Dakota Division of Criminal Investigation was also contacted in our situation. because this is a very serious a murder, and they didn't do anything. So the DCI in South Dakota is a joke. They're so when they say South Dakota Division of Crime, that's DCI. I mean that doesn't mean anything to anybody out there. Everybody knows that DCI in South Dakota is a joke. They don't do their job. I mean, this is it's a real problem when you can't trust the people that are supposed to be doing their jobs in these positions of authority, and and they actually are the ones doing the cover-ups instead of the real investigations. I mean, they could, and if there's no footage of what happened in jail, they should release the footage. They could tell you anything. This is what I have an issue with the police. They could, just like what happened in my last situation where they tried to say that I tried to charge me with being on the phone. Oh, really? Do you have evidence? Where's the evidence? Do you have? And they couldn't come up with any, and they wouldn't release the dash cam because there wasn't any evidence, because they're just making it up. And this is why I'm bringing this kind of stuff up, is that they have to show, they have to be held to a level of, they are law enforcement. So, and why, and they should be held at the highest level of accountability. If they are the ones enforcing the law, they have to abide by the law. It doesn't make but when you've been through something like I've been through in the military, where I had such deception at the highest level. When you have, when you're you'd think that a military base, you would think that would be the safest place in the entire country. You would think there would be all kinds of, people protecting you on places like that. And it turned out to be the opposite. It turned out to be the absolute opposite. So when you have that level of when you have that level of betrayal of people in authority figures, and deception, and lack of our care of our safety and concern, that I had in the military, and that's the highest level of the government, the military. That's why I now have all kinds of problems with authority. People in the positions of authority, because they, how can I trust people in authority when I've seen so many people in these top positions not doing their job? And it's a lot of things are coming out about all these people now. So that's then there's more murders, and there's all kinds of missing children. And then there was another very serious situation in Aberdeen. And then there was this one. There's all kinds of missing, unsolved cases. Practically every single case is unsolved. That's a murder in South Dakota. I was just looking, when I was looking up these different things, it's like hardly any of them get solved. It's like, is there any of them that actually get solved? That's what's so concerning. It's just, it seems like just cover up after cover up after cover up. And so there was a situation where there was a really young girl named Alicia Hummel that she was originally from, she was just a young girl, like right out of college, and she she, this was her. Her name is Alicia Hummel. Okay, this was her story. She, okay. She was fishing the state park in Myron Grove, and then they found her body at the edge of the Missouri River near a dock. She had suffered neck wounds and a blunt force trauma to the head. It's complete shock to the family. It's still an unsolved case, and she was only like 23. She posted on Facebook. It was like right after she did some kind of post on Facebook that they found her dead. I mean, and she was just going through a divorce. So that's kind of I was looking at that, but she was just the family is trying to find some kind of closure, because they don't, they can't think of one person that would, want her dead or anything, and so that's one case that happened in Vermillion, South Dakota. She was murdered in Vermillion, South Dakota. Okay, so it's another one unsolved. And then there was this Platte fire in Platte, South Dakota, and there was 6 people dead there. So there was a couple and 4 children that were found dead in a burning home. Okay, and this is also, I mean, they never really got to the bottom of it. It just says, it just leaves you totally like, oh, this is a tragic loss of an entire family. Based on the evidence, law enforcement committed to complete a thorough investigation. But yet, here we are years later, and of course, they never completed any investigation. This happened in 2015. Okay, see, they always say, oh, we're committed to, getting to the bottom of it, but they never do. It says that, murder-suicide, they said that the guy was found, had a head shot to the head, and the woman, both of them had wounds to the head. And it doesn't say, it said the kids died in the fire, but I don't know, who knows what. Just said school counselors, group leaders were on hand to provide support during this tragic event. Still unsolved, really. Nobody knows. So, one of many unsolved. And then there was, right in Aberdeen, South Dakota, there was this incident of this young Indian girl, and so I had done a video a while back with my friend Paul Register from South Dakota, and I don't know. So for those people who have seen some of my videos before, he's a social worker out there, and he was the one who was friends with this woman, Tawny Rockwood, because she was a victim from a very young age in these developmental centers that they have in South Dakota, and they're actually like state forced to go into these developmental centers. And what we found out, what Paul discovered, Paul Register, is that the federal government under Obama, and I don't know how long it's been going on, but under Obama they were purposely paying the federal government was paying the state $79,000 per child to purposely label them disabled when they really weren't disabled, to put them in these homes, these developmental homes, and a lot of them were mistreated. And that's what Paul Register, he was a licensed social worker, and he finally blew the whistle on this developmental center, and I'll play some of the video on that. But this was just like, this is a tragic story that happened in Aberdeen. I mean, I can't, so I'm sure people are probably shocked about some of the things I'm talking about, and I hope they are, because these things need to be talked about. This is a very dangerous situation in South Dakota, and people need to know. And I haven't talked about it because it's real complicated, and there's also issues with China owning some of the land in South Dakota, and the Native, American, like I said, the tribal issues. So it's a real complicated issue. So I did, and so I actually just rent my house out there right now. I still own property and kind of back and forth, but I'm just totally freaked out about some of these things going on out there, as you can imagine. So Tawny Rockwood, she died in Aberdeen, South Dakota, which is right outside of where I have my property. And she was just like, she was just gotten out of this horrible developmental center, at probably 18, and then she was just trying to start like a normal life, and she ended up having 2 kids, and then what happened is her daughter ended up being sexually assaulted by the neighbor. Okay, so she she was a single mom juggling 2 jobs. She had a horrible childhood experience herself. She noticed her daughter's behavior took a alarming turn, and then she figured out that her former neighbor, Gary Theris, 60, was charged in Dade County with rape. Apparently he had molested her daughter. So then when she finds this out, she freaked out, but she already had issues with the way she was brought up and different things that happened to her in that developmental center. So then I guess she had a breakdown, and then they put her in this mental hold for 24 hours and then took her children from her at this point, just because she had like a, mental attack from finding this out, I guess. Well, I would be upset too. And then as soon as she got out, she said, well, I want my kids back. And why? I mean, and obviously I want my kids back. I'm a law-abiding citizen with, yeah, of course I have some mental illness, but I have a stable roof over their head and job, and I'm drug free. And so why have you taken my kids? Okay, so this was the first conversation, September 22nd, 2017, and this was written by Shannon Marvel, Dakota Media Group, and then she messaged me again and told me in Huron she was instructed to get the documents from Northeastern Mental Health to verify she had cleared her mental evaluation, to get her kids out of the foster home. It had been about a month since her kids were taken away. Okay, so she was determined to reunite with her kids. She was doing everything that she could. She got documents from the mental health, cleared the mental health, signed a release, then had scheduled an appointment to visit a psychiatrist for a second opinion and make sure that she was cleared. And then I want to get my kids back. And okay, during our last conversation, Rockwood said she was told she'd be able to visit her children October 3rd, 2017, and she had enrolled in parenting classes, which her caseworker said she needed to do in order to regain custody. I don't know. So anyway, so then shortly after this, this young girl was found dead in her apartment. A gunshot wound to the head. Here we are again. Division of Criminal Investigation. Okay, this was in Andover. Well, right near, it's not too far from Aberdeen. It's at Hanson's four apartment in Andover. Okay, and but this doesn't make sense to anybody. She was, and then the whole thing. And then there's a picture of her apartment complex here where it just so she's found dead with a gunshot wound to the back of her head, and the kids were we don't know where the kids ever ended up, and that's why the whole thing sounds to me like the kids were just stolen from her, and the woman is murdered. These are just okay. Where's this? There's a picture where you can only her apartment was burned in this so it just is so fishy, all these things, that you can't help but think that there's something very strange going on here. And are they killing parents to steal the children? There's a ton of missing children off the Indian bases, Indian reservations, and there's a lot of just missing children just in general in South Dakota. And so this is just very concerning and freaky. Where's that picture? I can show the next video, because I'll talk about it next video, the whole more to the story. But and then I wanted to play this video that Paul Register had done a whole story on these developmental centers. So I'll play a little clip of him, and I'll put the clip of when I had him on my channel. So I'm going to play this here. This was in Redfield that he worked, and Paul's a licensed social worker, and this was on 7 years ago. He was investigated by, he was interviewed.
And so it's like that was over and over. I heard it. Many of my peers were like, somebody's going to get killed out here. And so it's like it reached a point where it's like somebody's got to do something.
This man left his job at the South Dakota Developmental Center in Redfield last night to go public about ongoing safety problems at the facility that he says are a threat to the people who work there, the community, and the clients themselves. Good evening. The South Dakota Developmental Center in Redfield has 140 residents with severe developmental disabilities. The center has 340 employees, but has short nearly 50, a big jump since the beginning of 2015 when only 12 positions were open.
A counselor who just resigned his job says the worker shortage stems from management and an unsafe working environment. Now he's going public with his concerns. In her latest KELOLAND News investigation, Angela Kennedy joins us with his story and a response from the center's director. Paul Register worked for the center for a decade. He tells us he had a perfect employment record and has been trying to get the head of Human Services of South Dakota to correct problems at the Redfield facility for months. When nothing changed, Register resigned yesterday in hopes of protecting his former co-workers. Happy clients and workers are all you see in this video of the South Dakota Developmental Center. But for months, the worker shortage has been growing here, quadrupling in just 1 year. The reason for that, says former counselor Paul Register, is because everyone's not so happy behind these walls.
Our reputation right now is so bad that we can't recruit, and everybody that works there knows why we can't recruit. And so it's like when you're in this small town of like 2,300 people and you have a well-paying job with state benefits, why aren't people coming there? It's like it's because of the reputation that it has and that we can't fix it until we fix the problem.
Register claims the problems stem from the way the place is managed, and he says that's creating a dangerous situation for those inside. He points to injured workers from a 2-month span over the summer.
And we had 5 concussions and one other person who received a really significant facial laceration that he had to have glue shut because it was too close to his eye.
The developmental center's director, Jan Banghart, won't confirm those incidents, but says the number of staff injuries actually went down in the last year.
There are injuries. There's injuries that occur, and I hate to see those happen. We hate to see that to happen to anybody, and we take them all really serious.
Register says that the center's clients have changed over the years.
They come straight out of jails, they come to our facility, and that's where it's differentiated. It's like we're not equipped to handle these guys.
Can it be an unsafe? You bet there's always that challenge of working with people with complex treatment needs.
Register showed us an email where one of the center's therapists admits to giving a client a knife.
But this behavior therapist gave him a pocket knife, and he's out roaming the campus. He could have been traded off, given to anyone.
Register says he and other staff were able to get the knife without incident. Banghart says the center is making changes to provide a safer environment.
Is it all right now in place? No. Does every single person have it? No. All those things take some time to get to there.
Still, Register is worried about what could go wrong in the meantime. He circulated 2 petitions among workers at the center protesting the unsafe working environment and the current administration. 88 employees signed it. Register sent the petitions along with a letter to Human Services Secretary Gloria Pearson at the end of November. He says 3 days later, Pearson paid a visit to the facility and met with management, but nothing has changed.
They basically know that all this is taking place, but they're turning a blind eye to it.
I am aware that there was a petition signed, and we did go out and we did address, and I held informational meetings.
Banghart says she is in the process of revising policies and procedures at the center, but Register says he's taking a stand by quitting.
We've come close at SDDC to having somebody killed. Came very close, and it's like the one thing that I know that I just can't sit back. I can't be expected. I can't be expected to sit back and watch it being one of my friends and know I didn't do anything.
Well, Banghart told us she was meeting with staff this afternoon to come up with an action plan for a safer working environment. Register doesn't want to see the center shut down. He says it's too important to the city of Redfield, but he is calling for the current administration to be replaced. He and 3 other former workers are taking those concerns to the legislature on Monday and will testify before the Appropriations Committee.
Okay, thanks a lot.
So I'm a little upset right now because I haven't heard from my friend Paul in months.
Does snoring
so I think
irritate you and
that-
deprive you of proper sleep?
So I think something has happened to Paul Register, because I haven't heard from him in at least 5 months now. And I used to talk to him at least every month. And he was exposing a lot of different things in South Dakota, not just the developmental centers, but a lot of people had started to contact him about other unsolved murders. And he was collecting information. He was becoming like an independent journalist to, like a contact person that people would call. And he was going out and interviewing people. And I haven't heard from him in 5 months now. I think something has happened to him. And I'm very upset that, there's just so much corruption there. And he's a real good friend of mine. And I don't know where he is anymore. And I really didn't know his family. I knew he was working somewhere else as a social worker, but I wasn't sure exactly where. And so, this is just really upsetting that there's, I had no idea there was this level of evil in South Dakota. I think people need to know that, this is a very dangerous situation out there. So, I'll do another video. There's more to share about things out there. There's more to the story, but this is the first part. Okay, thank you.